Destructive Words is basically about the ability to tame your tongue. You know, the tongue is one of the smaller parts of the body, but it can cause so much devastation, more devastation than even a fire can, because usually if there's a fire and there's destruction, that place can be rebuilt. But when you say something, it's often very difficult to take it back. So today we'll be looking again at 3 things around this topic. The first thing is how to unlearn the destructive words you use. Secondly, introspection. And lastly, don't be a hypocrite. Okay, in terms of the first point, you need to realize that your words have the power to either build others up or to destroy them. So you need to choose. Like I said, you always have a choice. Are you going to use your words to build up others up or to destroy them? Especially when and I'm just thinking of, for example, a case where you need to correct someone who's doing something wrong. You can either shout and scream at them and just leave this person feeling worse than they were before, or you can sit down with the person, talk to them, and explain to them and encourage them to do better. Well, not necessarily to do better, but just find a way to encourage those around you instead of always saying things that are hurtful and mean. Another thing is to eliminate bitterness, rage, anger, slander. If you are feeling bitter about something that has happened to you, that can cause you to feel angry, that can cause you to go out on a rage and shout and scream at other people. And sometimes, like I said in an earlier video, I think it was the first one when we were talking around socialization, because you're carrying this pain and this hurt with you, you can end up projecting it on other people, even people who are innocent and have nothing to do with the incident on hand. And avoid unnecessary quarreling. Yes, you won't always agree with people, and it's important to raise your issues when you don't agree. But sometimes you need to know when to agree to disagree. Where you get to that point where you're like, okay, Linda, can we agree to disagree? Instead of just arguing and fighting and quarreling for the sake of quarreling because you want to be right, and you want to be heard, and you want to shut the other person down. And also slander. Slander is when you purposely go out of your way to say something about someone which is not always true. Sometimes it can be partially true to other people in order to bring them into disrepute. But I think I'll talk more about slander and gossip in a later video. But it's very important to be careful of that, because all these things always come back to you, and ultimately it hurts you, because you are the one that's feeling all this hurt, and you are projecting it onto other people. So you're basically just leaving destruction in your path, and like I said, people will end up avoiding you, and even the people who are close to you, some of them may be scared to even tell you that you need to fix this, But it's important that you are more mindful of the words you use. Use words that build others up. You avoid being bitter. You eliminate it, actually. Get rid of bitterness, rage, anger. And if you are feeling that way, to rather walk away, calm down, or find a neutral person, someone that you can talk to and say, I'm really feeling angry, and then just offload before addressing the person. It's because otherwise you just end up leaving a path of destruction behind you. And it's also, because not being able to unlearn is actually a flaw, because all of us are work in progress. No one is perfect, So if somebody does point it out to you that you have a tendency to do this, to say things which are hurtful, that you are always angry, that you're always bitter, and you're always quarreling or slandering people, instead of getting defensive, it's important to really introspect, which is the second thing I want to talk about. Because what this does is then you're able to look at yourself and say, okay, is it only when I'm speaking to Linda when I speak in this way, or is it generally how I tend to be, And if it's generally how you tend to be, it's important then that learn to tame your tongue, like I was saying earlier, because this is one thing that is very difficult to do, because we live in a society where we're told that no, you must speak your mind and you must tell people off, and and usually when we have spoken our mind and told someone off, we have a bit of a chip on our shoulder, and we think that I told Linda off, I told her, put her in her place, but ultimately, is that helpful? Putting people down and speaking to them however you want to. So it's important to learn to tame your tongue, and it's difficult to unlearn things that we have internalized, especially when it's something that you've been doing for a very long time, and internalized, and it's become almost like part of how you naturally respond to situations and speak. It's almost like you have to become very intentional and make a decision to be intentional about it. If it means finding an accountability partner, or who you can go to and say, you know what, I struggle with anger, I struggle with belittling people, I struggle with swearing, or whatever the thing is, and they hold you accountable. And when you slip up, you can go to that person and say, I slipped up today. Or maybe when you were able to not swear that day, or not slander, or not say something hurtful, you can go to them and say, you know what, I had an urge to do this, but I fought it off. It's important to have an accountability partner, because they will then help along the way. And remember, this is not a sprint, it's a marathon. We're all in this for the long haul, and yes, you may not see change as you introspect and you decide to make these changes. You may not see the results immediately. It may take time, and be gracious with yourself, and give yourself time. And when you do slip up, ask for forgiveness from the person that you've hurt, or and also forgive yourself, and just make a note of it and get up, dust yourself off, and keep going. Because unlearn, those people who don't learn to unlearn, if you don't learn to unlearn all these things that you do and say, ultimately it reflects badly on you, and lastly, the thing I want to talk about is not being a hypocrite. A hypocrite is somebody who says one thing but does another. Okay, this throws your credibility right out the window, and it can actually be very destructive to you. So it's important that you learn not to be a hypocrite, and to always be true to your word. How you be that person who, when you say I don't do X, just to give an example, like I can't be smoking and telling my child not to smoke, as an example, and I'm like, my child, your lungs and your heart are going to be affected by the smoke, but I'm smoking. Because yes, my child will say, okay, I know that smoking is bad for me, but if mom smokes, can't be that bad, and they could end up doing it too, because our children, they don't do what we say, they tend to do what we do. So that's just one example, but also try not to be hypocritical, because it will always come back to bite you. And make sure that your words and actions always line up, because, as I said, that will lend a lot of credibility to you. Then nobody will be able to hold anything against you, because they'll know that, no, this person, they are true to their word. They don't say one thing and do something else, no matter what, And lastly, it's important that you embrace humility, and don't be proud and arrogant, especially when it comes to this whole thing of unlearning destructive words, because especially when you realize that this is something you struggle with and something you need to work on and change, it's very easy to become defensive and to want to fight, especially if it's somebody that's raising it with you, to take issue with them and to want to just brush it off. It's important to remain humble and to just say, oh, okay, I didn't realize this was true about me, and to actively do something about it. As I said earlier, whether it means finding an accountability partner, putting a plan of action in place, and making sure that you unlearn all these things that you're doing and find different ways to express yourself in terms of saying things that are hurtful. Like there's a quote I'd like to read here from Alvin Toffler that says, "The illiterate of the 21st century won't be those who can't read and write, but those who can't learn, unlearn, and relearn." As I said, this is a marathon, not a sprint, and we're all a work in progress. So I hope this is something that you will really take seriously and make an effort to unlearn your destructive words. If you loved this video, you know what you'll love even more? A copy of my book, Filtered. You can order it on Amazon or directly from me. Purchase links are in the description below. Once you've read the book, please do leave me a review on Amazon, because your feedback helps introduce my books to other readers who will benefit from it.